My ear is hurting so much. Oh God. Oh God. Oh, honestly, the pain that my little buddy right here is giving me right now is just about the pain that I felt when I was reading these books. Ooh. At one point, I'm like, huge reveal, and I'm like, lizard orgy, but it's not really an orgy, but it's almost like an orgy. This chick, I don't know what her name is. I don't care. I didn't finish this because I was just so not having it. Are y'all ready for this? Hi, my name is Celie and welcome back to the Little Reader's Corner. So today I'm talking about my most disappointing reads and my DNFs that I didn't tell y'all about of 2019. So I don't talk about my DNFs because I feel like there is a lot of negative energy around not finishing books, and not finishing a book is like a huge deal, which I don't think it is. If I just get bored or I just don't like a book, I'm just gonna stop reading it. It's not a massive campaign against the book or against the author, but let's get into it. So the first book that I can't wait to talk about, that is just on the top of my disappointing reads of the year, is Lizard Radio by Pat Schmatz. So I had to read this book for the young adult literature class that I took last quarter, which there will be a video on someday. And this book sounded really cool. It was, what was it even about? The actual summary and what it ended up being about are totally different. So it was pitched as, I don't even remember. What is this book? What is this book? I don't remember. So this book is a dystopian, futuristic story where at the age of 11, you decide what gender you're going to be if you're like 50-50% of either gender. It's really confusing. There's like a whole section in the middle of the book that kind of talks about it. But initially I was really excited to read this book because it basically has a dystopian kind of non-binary rep in it, and the main character is kind of dealing with these feelings about how they're kind of like in between being like male or female, and like that's like a really common thing in society, but at some point you have to choose which one you want to be in society, so it's kind of weird. And then the main character, Cavalli, gets sent off to Croc Camp, which I don't even know what it was. And then at some point there's this weird thing called vaping, but it's not like vaping, it's called vaping, and it's basically when you change from being a corporeal being to being incorporeal vapor. And it's not like you die. It's like an extreme form of suicide, but it's not, because you're still alive, but you just turn into vapor. So Cavalli sees someone do this, and then like everyone just like forgets about them. And then at some point, so Cavalli has this thing with lizards and sees himself as a Komodo dragon, and always keeps this like little Komodo dragon thing with them around. And then at some point they're in the forest, and all of these lizards start coming up to them, and they're having like this like lizard orgy, but it's not really an orgy, but it's almost like an orgy. There's like magic or something, but not really. It's like magic realism, but it's not. And then they're being drugged to fall in love with their mates in this camp. If what I'm saying right now is not making any sense to you and you have no idea what I'm trying to convey, then you understand what this book is about. It doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to have good rep, but it really doesn't, because it's just, I feel like, badly portrayed. And it's supposed to be some kind of book about like finding yourself and who you are, but I feel like it's very problematic. And then there's the stuff with the vaping and like the weird drugs, and Cavalli's trying to figure out who their birth mother was, but none of it makes any sense. I hate this book. I don't like it at all. It doesn't make any sense. I spent hours with this book trying to read it for class, and I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. Give me the F. I can't read this stupid mother effing book. Moving on. So I was really excited to read Blackbird, this beautiful graphic novel by Sam Humphries and Jen Bartel. Like, look at the art. Wait, hang on. Let me find a good one. Look at the art in this. What? I'm making you want to read this right now, don't I? But then you remember that this is a Disappointing Reads video. Look at that. It's gorgeous. But the story is such absolute shit. Like, the actual plot is interesting. It's about this chick. I don't know what her name is. I don't care. I didn't finish this because I was just so not having it. This chick, she goes through like a really traumatic earthquake with her family in California when she's like 10 years old or something, and then because of that, like later she loses her mom and I think her grandma, and then like years later her and her sister have drifted apart. She works as a bartender and believes in this magical thing that happened during this earthquake, and her sister thinks she is totally out of it, totally drugged up. I mean, she kind of is, but you know. And then she's at the bar and she sees one of these like magician people, and she's like, oh my god, I was right. But then her sister gets captured by this huge beast, and she spends the entire time being like, oh, why didn't the beast capture me? Oh my god, and trying to find her sister. And there's like all of these twists that just, you're like, why? But what I'm really trying to say is, this is shit because of the dialogue. The dialogue, you're like, honey, please just stop speaking. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what? Oh my god, let's see if I can find one example. She just sounds like a whiny bitch the entire time. So in this one section right here, she's like, you, holy crap. Wow, I mean, damn, you're really a paragon? Like gems and magic and stuff? He's like, and stuff. I'm the baddest paragon in Los Angeles. Where did you get the circ on your wrist? That's like from the 80s. 2 days ago, he was just a creep from the bar, but now all I want to do is look in his eyes. This is written like it was written by a middle schooler. These are like 28-year-old adults. This is like an adult comic book. Why are they talking like this? It's so annoying. It could have been so good. Next up, I have Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds. So I don't have a lot of complaints about this one. It just wasn't what I wanted. It has a really cool premise. Basically, it takes place in 90 seconds, I want to say. It takes place within the time that the main character walks into an elevator, goes down each of the floors, and comes down to the first floor of the building. And in that time, he makes a decision about whether or not he's going to get revenge and shoot someone. And on the way down, on every floor, a new ghost walks in that is like somehow related and has dealt with like a shooting thing. Really interesting premise. I love the idea that this entire book takes place in like these 90 seconds that it takes to go down in an elevator. That's super cool. I love those kinds of stories. I've talked about this before, like in the movie Locked, starring Tom Hardy. He's basically in a car the entire time, and that's when the movie takes place. It's within the exactly 2 hours that it takes for him to drive from work, make a decision, and drive to this one place, and it's like phone calls and stuff. That's the movie Lock, but that's what I was going for. I was like, oh, super cool. It takes place in this little thing. But I just didn't care the entire time while I was listening to it. Maybe it was just the stress from school that I was dealing with, or like other things, but I just didn't really care about what was going on. There was one interesting part with like one of the ghosts, but then at the end, it just didn't just didn't grab me at all. I'm really disappointed by it. Next up is Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. This is especially sad because I went to the signing and I met Margaret Owen, and she's super cool and I love her as a person, and everything that she was saying from the signing was awesome. I have a whole video on it. I have the entire excerpt from the signing if you want to go watch it, but I just didn't like the book that much, which is really sad. So up until maybe like the 3/4 mark, I wasn't loving it. It was just the pacing just wasn't really my style, and it just wasn't really grabbing me, and I kept on confusing the characters and what was actually going on, and it was just a mess. So this book has a bunch of different casts in it, and they're all different kinds of birds. So there's like the crow cast, which deal with mercy killings and are kind of like the plague killers, and they're the lowest caste, and of course it's about one of the people from the lowest caste. Plus there are also witches in each of the casts that can control magic, I think, right? Or it's just the crows that can control oh wait, no, each of them has a gift they can control, but crows can control all of them with a kind of bone from the person of that caste. It's weird and confusing, and I don't really get that part. The main character like can harness the magic of other castes by using teeth. She goes around and collects teeth, and then she has to smuggle the prince and his brother out of the castle to save them. I don't know. You know, see, I can't explain the books that disappointed me because I just didn't understand them. Yeah, so a romance thing starts like at the end of this book, and that's when I finally got interested. I was like, okay, now I can get into this. I wish I could be a merciful hoe like Katie and Maddie, but I didn't like it. So I read Romanov by Nadine Brandes, which is about the Romanov family in Russia, and main character is Anastasia Romanov, you know, the missing Princess Anastasia that we always talk about. I was so excited for this book and so disappointed. It was so boring, but like, I really like historical fiction, and this was just boring. Nadine Brandes took the story of the Romanovs and all the speculations about how they could have escaped, then she tossed in magic, and that's, I think, where she went wrong. Like, I think it was a cool idea, but the way the magic and the history she tried to make them line up just didn't make sense. So they're trying to escape the Bolshevik soldiers during this entire time. Then they're basically being held under house arrest in this tiny home and can't leave. And there's this whole love story with one of the soldiers that just is weird. So Rasputin is supposed to be like some kind of magician, spellmaster. He's a spellmaster, and he gave Nastya some spell ink, which you can like write out spells and make a magic spell. Okay, the way that it's used is so weird. When we get to the climax of the story, it should have ended there. But then, like, you know, spell ink is used, blah, 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 spoilers, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is how, and like, when you do a spell, you have to like put it on your tongue, and then when you open your mouth, the spell happens. So she has to like, at one point, I'm like, and then the end, I'm like, I'm studying Russian. I love the story of the Romanovs. I loved how there was actual Russian used throughout this, kind of. That was cool. Just, why did you write this story? We've finally made it to Once and Future by Amy Rose Capetta and Corey McCarthy. I was so excited about this book. I buddy read it with Jade, Jess, Katie, and Maddie. Katie, were you in the buddy read? I don't know. I think we already read it. I don't think Jess is ready yet though, but it was a buddy read. Me, Jade, and Maddie, I think, we're all definitely still on the same page about how much we disliked this book. Where do I begin? It is a futuristic sci-fi of the story of Arthur and Merlin, Guinevere and everything. So it's gender bent plus a lot of LGBTQ plus rep, which is one of the reasons why I was really excited about this. And it just was so juvenile and pointless. Oh my gosh. Like, oh man, like the rep was everywhere, but it was in a really weird way where it felt like it was trying to overdo it and like throw as much LGBTQ plus representation at you as it could, which, I don't know, it just felt really forced in a weird way where it was like, here's a character, these are all of their things, here's a character, this is all of their identity. See how we've hit every single identity? Bing, donk donk. It just, I don't know, it just didn't feel authentic, which is really sad. And the whole story was really weird. Like, either make a futuristic story or make a retelling of Arthur and Merlin. This put it together and it did not mesh well at all. Like, it was really strange, and Merlin just kind of popped up and was like a pimply teenager because somehow Merlin is aging backwards. It's like a Benjamin Button situation, which, was it explained? I don't know. I think he was cursed by someone. He just kind of pops up and he's like, hey, I like breasts. And you're like, Merlin, please stop. And he's like a middle school child, basically. And you're like, what are you doing? And Arthur, is her name Arthur? The one who's supposed to be Arthur. She's like adopted and from a planet that is like quarantined. And like that whole side plot doesn't make sense. And like doesn't, like, it impacts the story, but it shouldn't. It really shouldn't. The ending, you're just like, why? Why would you do this? Also, there is a medieval planet that Guinevere is the queen of. So it's like medieval, but it's in the future and it's on a different planet and it's like an experience. I did not like this book. Am I gonna read the second one? Yes, because I want to see what kind of a shit show it is. Like, I don't hate read books, but I need to know. I need to know, especially after the ending of the first one. Like, I need to know what happened. I hate myself for it. Okay, now I'm going to attempt to talk about all of the books I did not finish in 2019 that I specifically stopped reading because I was bored, not interested, or just couldn't do it anymore. I just didn't want to read it. These books include Illuminae by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. There's my bookmark. Didn't even make it halfway. God, this is such a thick book. I used a highlighter to try to understand this book because it's really freaking confusing. Like, I love how Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff made a cool story out of completely different mediums and like told a story through that. Like, that is really cool. This is like a futuristic space story about two ships that had to flee from Earth because aliens were attacking it. I don't know what it's about. I still don't understand what the story is about. I don't understand what happens. I don't know. But it's told through like all the different ship logs and message communications and like CIA folders or something. It's cool, but oh my gosh, it's so confusing. I didn't know what was going on at all. And I had the audiobook. I was listening to the different character voices and looking at it on the page and didn't understand who was who or what was going on. This was too stressful for me to finish. Here comes the tragedy of our time. Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Okay, this bookmark I think is no longer relevant. I think I'm more around somewhere here because I started listening to the audiobook with Jade from Jaded Reader. But I also highlighted this book because, where's my highlight? Did I not highlight? No, I did. There it is. There's my highlight. I also used a highlighter for this one because first off, the language is beautiful. Second off, I really was enjoying this book. And third, oh my god, I needed a highlight to understand what was happening. Oh gosh. this book has like all of the things that you want, but that means that it's dense and a lot of stuff is happening. There are 4 different points of views and they're entirely different. They're super cool. Maybe I want to start reading this again. This was a good book, but it's very confusing. So I had to just hit pause because, oh my gosh, my brain does not have enough processing power to think about work, school, life, and this book and booktube. Like, it's just too much. Here's a new edition. Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. Oh my gosh, one of my biggest anticipated reads of 2019 and one of my biggest disappointments. So I'm about halfway through. Yes, I spilled coffee on it in the airport, don't remind me. I'm about halfway through. I'm currently buddy reading it with Jade from Jaded Reader, who I've mentioned multiple times. And it's just boring. Like, things have happened where it's like, guess what? This thing from the first book, here's new information. And it's like, woo. I'm like, okay. Moving on. Like, I don't really care. Like, huge reveal, and I'm like, The 2 main points of view in this one are Zaylee and Amari. And both of them are just being whiny bitches right now. And like, if you read to the halfway point as you know which parts I'm talking about. But both of them are just being not understanding of each other at all. They're supposed to be like best friends and they're just being really annoying right now. I just, I'm gonna finish it this year, but I took a sweet 2-week break because I needed a break from this. If you've seen my October vlog, you know that I DNF'd the 10,000 Doors of January multiple times. I actually cut out the 4-minute long video kind of discussing why I did, because I don't think that I have enough reason to have DNF'd it. First off, it was just kind of boring and reminding me of a lot of books that I had to read for high school, and like, nothing had happened. Granted, look how far I got. Of course nothing had happened. There were a lot of characters who were saying racist things towards the main character, and it's understandable because, I mean, it's not understandable, but like, it's the 19th century. It's a lot more normalized back then, but it was just making me really uncomfortable what kind of things that they were saying towards her. So I just had to put it down. Like, I did not want to start processing those things, which, I mean, I should keep reading it to see like how it unfolds and how it's dealt with in this book, but I don't know, it's just, yeah. All I know even about this book is it's about the main character, January, and her dad is an archaeologist, and she somehow can open doors to other worlds or other places, and she does. And there are 10,000 doors, I guess. I don't know. Here's another one that I didn't finish and was really excited about. This is another Arthur Merlin retelling, except the Lady of the Lake is the one who gets the magical sword. I also DNF'd this one in October, and I talk more about it in my vlog. There's art in this, and the art is so not my style at all. Like, I think this is Nimue, Lady of the Lake. It's very blocky. It's just not my thing. But the actual story, so what was getting me is the weird morals of this. Like, Nimue is not willing to eat bread that is given to her as like a charity kind of thing. She's like, no, I cannot take stolen bread. But then she slices down like 20 innocent people in one go, and I'm like, honey, what are you doing? Her name is Nimue, right? And then they use the term leper a lot. There's like the Leper King and stuff, and from my knowledge, leper is kind of a derogatory like slur against people and shouldn't be used like that. But like, I didn't get far enough to like really see more about how it was used, but it was weirding me out and it was making me uncomfortable, so I just cut my losses and read something I enjoyed. Okay, here's a really embarrassing one that I didn't finish. Of Curses and Kisses by Sanya Menon. So I'm on Sanya Menon's street team for like all of her books, but this is the one that's coming out next year, and it's basically a Beauty and the Beast retelling, but with like Indian royalty and English royalty at a private boarding school. So I was excited about this. I mean, I literally campaigned to be on the street team for this book because it sounded really interesting, and I really enjoyed When Dimple Met Rishi by Sonia Menon that I read like the year prior. And then I started reading it, and it was just a lot more cheesy than I expected. And not just like, oh, rom-com cheesy, like, no, it was like cheesy, like, ooh, like some of these lines that they were saying, I was like, oh no. It was just so much more cheesy than any of her previous work that I'd written, and I just couldn't do it. Oh god, it made me cringe so much. I got to like 25% and I was like, I need to just yeet out of here. Okay, those were all of the books that I was disappointed by, that I did not finish, that I DNF'd the whole everything. So there you go. I participated in the negative book talk on BookTube. I hope you're happy. My ear is hurting so much. Oh god. Oh god. Oh, honestly, the pain that my little buddy right here is giving me right now is just about the pain that I felt when I was reading these books. Ooh. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the like or maybe the subscribe button if you want to see more of my face in the future. And leave me a comment what you thought about these books. If you had similar feelings, if you think I'm totally wrong and should revisit some of these, maybe I will. Let me know. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye! Who's the dude? Who's the dude? Oh my god, what's his fucking name? By Amy Rose Capetta and the other person.